FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
Right now, I want to bring on my next guest. There's a book that's making the rounds, and it has a lot of people talking. The book was described as scathing by the Daily Beast. It's called Blind Allegiance to Sarah Palin, and its author is Frank Bailey, who wrote this along with Ken Morris and Gene Devon. And Frank joins us by phone right now. Frank, good afternoon to you. Happy Friday.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on, Dana.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for coming on. I've only started reading a part of your book. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet. But I'm curious, what made you? What was the motivation for you writing Blind Allegiance to Sarah Palin? It's a memoir you write of our tumultuous years. What motivated you to write this book?
There was really two things. I mean, I've got I felt like I had a story to tell. Nobody can read Blind Allegiance without seeing the mistakes that I personally made, not only things that I was involved in, that I helped, in this case, Sarah Palin do, but things that I do that I absolutely regret. And I guess my hope was to warn other people to not make the same mistakes that I did. But, secondly, this is a story that had to be told. Really, I mean, the only other person that could have told this story was Sarah herself. And sadly, she did not. And I feel like if I didn't tell the story and she made it to the White House, then I honestly could never live with myself. I'd be a coward.
Now, why is it that you didn't speak up then? You said that you had written that in your book too. I wouldn't have been able to live with myself. Why didn't you speak up earlier about anything?
It is a great question. I look back at that, and I look back at some of my times. I mean, there were some early precursor things that happened that I personally was involved in, maligning people's character and doing silly stuff like rigging these online polls and things like that for my boss at the time. But I am an optimist, and the human being, they've got the amazing ability to rationalize, and I did. You see that rationalization throughout this book.
Now, when you say that you were involved in like rigging polls and things like this, was that because did the Palins tell you to do that?
Absolutely. Sarah was obsessive about these online polls that would come up, and she wanted anything that went out there to try to paint her as real positive, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for a politician. But when you go to the lengths that we did. We certainly took that over the top, and she was absolutely obsessive about it.
Well, I mean, and I'm glad that you say that. Most politicians, they want to know what's going out about them. But there are a lot of people that really debate your point that she was obsessive about it. One of the things that you criticized Palin about was you said that you essentially wrote that she was paranoid, that she felt that she was under coordinated attacks by Democrats. What do you really feel that she felt that she was paranoid in your book?
I certainly do. You read the emails, certainly in 2009, in this phase of, post-VP election there in 2008, where it was all of these little tiny criticisms, and you hear her tag these little local criticisms to all of the higher-ups in both the Republican Party and the Democratic operatives that had it in for her. And it was just kind of this all-consuming sense that really choked out our ability to do any state business at the time.
Now, do you think that any of her concerns were valid at all?
I do. I mean, there were many complaints, ethics complaints that were filed against her that were deemed frivolous and ridiculous. Right. But,
well, I wanted to point out, because you bring up the ethics complaints and that, and the very people who brought those up, that really petitioned and were really putting pressure on Kim Elton, who was the senator that started bringing forth all of these ethics charges, the Alaskans for Truth, the people that are listed as co-authors on your book are involved with Alaskans for Truth. Do you think that might give people some cause to perhaps distrust the information that's in your book?
I don't think they can read the emails and read the facts in the book without realizing that truth is truth. I mean, you see in her own words and in my own words what I did and what she did and what consumed our time there in the governor's office. I mean, you've got to read the story about the lemonade stand. It is so Nixonian, and it's not the kind of thing that we should have been spending our time with the state government.
Well, and a lot of the things that you write in there, you were discussing that, well, she was violating campaign law, but yet the emails that are in there, and I'm about a third of the way through the book. Nothing is supporting that claim. And I want to also bring back to Ken Morris and Janine Devin. These are known, very known leftists. I knew of Janine Devin before this book came out. She's married to the treasurer of Alaskans for Truth, which, as you know, they really petitioned to bring these over 20 frivolous, as you said, that was a right word to use, ethics charges with this. And one of the deputy treasurer for this was on a phone call, a conference call with Peter Rouse, who's a top Obama advisor. And they were pressuring Kim Elton, who's the senator who ended up bringing the ethics charges. Don't you think that's a little bit conflicting to, after you leave, you have a book with two known leftists who really are validating the former governor's claims that there is sort of a conspiracy, that these people are really trying to target her because you're writing a book with them?
Dana, those are valid points, I've got to say, but I am a conservative. This is my story. I had veto power in this book, and there were some things that, maybe they wanted to bring in that I just said, absolutely not. That is not my perspective, or this isn't right. And, it comes back to my passion that I hope that people on the right will ask not only Palin, but our politicians tough questions. If Sarah says that she is about smaller, smarter government, why did she grow the budget every year?
Well, she cut it by 10%. She actually cut the budget by 10%.
I'm sorry?
She actually cut the budget by 10%.
No.
Oh, yes, she did. I actually looked all of this stuff up. Governor Murkowski's budget for the fiscal year 2007 was over $11 trillion. Governor Palin, hers was 10, barely 10. And the reduction in spending between 2007 and 10 was 9.5%. That's just not true, though.
Specifically, no, that is, you just do not have your facts.
Those are Alaskan records. They're available online.
No. The Alaska operating budget grew every year for three years. And, this is the same governor that put a Planned Parenthood board member on the Alaska.
You know why? Because they go through they have the same setup as Missouri, my state does. She actually, there were two liberals that were put up, and she had to choose the less liberal one. I mean, Frank, I don't know how you can call yourself a conservative when you write with two far progressive people. You write a book that is specifically out with baseless claims to smear someone. From what I hear, Tara Jolie, there's a really good article about Tara Jolie out. She says that you were just fascinated with the celebrity, that you didn't get a promotion, you were disgruntled, you left, you wanted to make bank, so you sold a book. Is that accurate?
Dana, that's absolutely inaccurate. And here's all you got to do. If you don't believe me, check the facts in the book.
I have checked the facts.
In the book.
I have, Frank.
Look and ask why.
Frank, I got to get going. Frank, hold on for me. We got to go to break. Hold on for me, Frank. Keep it here.